The left-right spectrum presumes there's only one issue in politics, and that's what we obviously have to see. I mean, a unidimensional spectrum can only model one thing. But if politics is about multiple things, then we can't put it on a single dimension. So if the Republican Party becomes more free market, oh, that's a move to the right. If it becomes less free market and more authoritarian, as I think it has done under Trump, that's also considered a move to the right. So we're just talking absurdities because we're assuming there's just one dimension to politics. We have to break it down into multiple dimensions. Now, once upon a time, in, say, the 1930s, when the New Deal was the one issue that dominated national politics, a left-right spectrum more or less worked. It basically just modeled where you were on the New Deal. If you were in favor of the New Deal, that was considered liberal left. If you were against the New Deal, that was considered conservative right. But over time, we got more and more issues coming online, and gay marriage and war in Iraq and abortion and all these other kinds of things. And so a single issue spectrum simply wasn't going to work anymore. And so we see all kinds of confusion. When the Republican Party moves in a big government direction, people call it a rightward move, and people then assume that the Republican Party is slashing government spending. It's a tool of defamation. Somebody like you who believes in liberty, they say, oh, well, he's on the same side as Adolf Hitler because they're both right wing. And if you take Kibbe's views on liberty too far, you'll wind up where Hitler is, which is manifestly absurd. So it's always been a good time to debunk myths. But now with the Trumpist direction of the Republican Party, is a better time than ever.
Yeah, and I might just jump in there. So our publisher actually published the book on January 6th, all right, so the anniversary of the assault on the Capitol building. And we thought that was appropriate because we think that left-right thinking actually promotes that kind of behavior because it deludes people into thinking that all of their issue positions are tied together by a coherent philosophy, and that all the issue positions of the other political party are tied together by a coherent and enduring transcendent philosophy. And so if you think about politics in that way, then you have convinced yourself that you have the correct position on all of the issues, and your political opponents have the wrong position on every single issue. And so that causes people to start thinking, well, maybe violence justifies stopping the outcome of elections. We can't stand to let this other group, which is totally opposed to everything I believe in, come into power. And so I think the left-right thinking deludes people, and it makes them more hostile, more angry, more willing to use violence to get their way in politics. I think that's a danger for democracy, especially a pluralistic democracy. That's what we need in this country.
So I want to go back, and I don't precisely remember this, but you guys are political scientists, so I'm hoping that you know this. But I believe it was Madison who was particularly anxious about the emergence of partisan parties in the early evolution of American constitutional democracy. Am I getting that right? And how did we get to this partisan model when it wasn't really in the design that the founders had in mind?
So when the Constitution was framed, of course, the writers of the Constitution weren't really thinking that they were creating a partisan system. A lot of them criticized partisanship, especially George Washington famously in his farewell address criticized the spirit of party. But ironically, some of those same people were the ones that founded the first political parties. So Madison and Jefferson together formed the Republican Party in the 1790s. Hamilton and Adams formed the Federalist Party. We're actually not critics of partisanship per se. The United States has benefited from parties for a long time. What we're critical of is ideologism, or the false belief that all the issue positions of each of the parties are tied together by some coherent philosophy, because that delusion causes people to act dogmatically and in a tribal manner. So we're not actually critical of the two-party system or of parties in particular, but we're critical of the left-right spectrum.